Yeah. So with that, where does it all start? Well, it all starts with education. And with that, E.J. Reedy's got a very impressive panel. He's going to take you through on things going on in the education with blockchain. E.J.?
All right, thank you so much, George. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. So, as George referenced, we've got an all-star panel of educators up here today, but I think that's, a misnomer for what we're talking about as we look at blockchain and the relationship to what universities are doing. And so one of the things I really want to get across today is the broad ways in which different universities are engaging the topic of blockchain and fintech with their students, with their programming, with their startups. I know that's a topic that will come up more in the afternoon. My name is E.J. Reedy. I'm a director at the Polsky Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation at the University of Chicago. Are there any University of Chicago alums in the audience? Okay, I'll be hitting you up for advancement dollars after this. No, I'm just kidding. University of Chicago has a long history of work in finance. But one of the things that I think is interesting about how we're approaching fintech and blockchain support is that we're actually supporting things university-wide via the Entrepreneurship Center, both within and across different disciplines, and both within the education process through to commercialization. So a lot of how we're approaching it is a broad-based perspective within the classroom, and then also getting out into commercial activity and dealing with a lot of the many, many companies that come to us looking for talent. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my very esteemed panel, because I think we all have different perspectives on how on how blockchain is being addressed and looked at on our campuses. The first question that I've got for our panelists is essentially an introduction of how your institution is approaching the topic of blockchain, and we'll go ahead and take this kind of one by one. First up, we have Melanie Swan with Purdue University, who will offer her perspective from Purdue.
Hi, everybody. I'm happy to be with you today. I'm in the philosophy department at Purdue. This semester, we have a crypto seminar. Lately, we've been covering payment channels. Last semester, I taught blockchain in the philosophy of technology course, and I anticipate doing the same this upcoming spring. I've proposed a hackathon collaboration with the computer science department. I also have separately the Institute for Blockchain Studies, where we have a Udemy course that 4,500 students worldwide have taken online, mostly in India and Africa. There is a lot of student interest in blockchain. People are working in fintech over the summer and coming back wanting additional educational resources in the fall. Someone is going to create the next Netscape or Google for blockchain and turn this technology into a killer app. To the extent that we can provide technical skill sets, conceptual resources, and inspiration, that's how I see our role as educators.
Thank you so much. Lamont.
Hi guys, I'm Lamont Black from DePaul University. I'm in the finance department. So I come at things from the fintech angle. And when I come to events like this, and I've met a ton of people already, which is great, a lot of the times the question I get is, well, how are you guys thinking about this? What are universities doing? And unfortunately, universities often lag the innovation sector. Too often we're teaching what students needed to know like 5 to 10 years ago. And so, I've been at DePaul for about 4 years now. I moved here in 2013 from the Federal Reserve, and so I teach money and banking. And when I teach money and banking, I used to kind of end my courses with the final session being, what is the future, and kind of the crystal ball looking out. And that's really, I think, where this topic started arising, very much with Bitcoin, because students want to know about Bitcoin. They want to know where is this going. But what I have seen so much over the last year is how much this topic is going mainstream. And so that single session at the end of my classes is growing to 2 sessions. We're now talking about electives in blockchain, and that could either be in the finance department or in the management department with supply chain management, or someone teaching this quarter at DePaul a course in the computer science department on solidity and smart contracts. And so it's growing across DePaul University. And part of what we, I think, can do is bring education to this space. Think about why most of you are here today. It's to learn. You know, so much of blockchain right now is not sort of enterprise-grade production. It's sort of people trying to understand it. And that's what we do, is we're ultimately educators. And so I want to be working with students, working with people like you to help inform and understand, so that then Chicago can really become a place where we've got more people entering the job market with that kind of knowledge. Because my view is, you know, we've got Northern Trust speaking later today. They're hiring DePaul students. One of my former students, hedge fund servicing, he spends his day sitting in front of a computer looking at spreadsheets. He came and talked to me the other day, and he said he is actively trying to automate himself out of his current job, because otherwise he will be automated regardless of whether he wants to be or not. And that's how the disruption to the labor market, that's where we need to be preparing our students to understand these topics we're talking about today.
Great.
Hi, I'm Sarit Markovic from Kellogg, Northwestern University. We're also trying to be very proactive in this respect when we think about, and I also, I'm from the strategy department, not the finance department, so I'm actually taking a completely different point of view when we think about fintech and when we think about blockchain and Bitcoin. And the point of view that I take is really about the business models and thinking about how can you monetize the different strategies, what can you actually do in the market. I've developed a course at Kellogg, for Kellogg, and I teach it at Kellogg, on innovation in financial markets, where we talk about crowdfunding, we're talking about peer-to-peer lending, equity-based crowdfunding, and obviously also about Bitcoin and blockchain. And I think that it's important to understand the entrepreneurial part of it. It's important to understand the part of fintech and again, and blockchain and Bitcoin that is not that new. And there was one question earlier in the morning from the crowd asking, you know, so what is it different? What exactly is it? Why do we need to use blockchain and not use something else? Or why can't we use just a regular database, for example? And I think that there, you know, specifically when you think about blockchain, I think that there is a lot of confusion in terms of what blockchain can actually do and what it is best to use blockchain, and when is it better actually to use a different database? So I think that kind of like, you know, together with Lamont, I really believe that there is a lot that we can teach, that we can give to the community. And in terms of attraction, I've been teaching this course at Kellogg for the last 5 years. It's amazing how the size of the class is growing. I started with a very small group, and now I have a very large group, and we're also really building a fintech club at Kellogg. So this is definitely something that students at Kellogg are getting interested in.
Hi, my name is Duru Turkoglu. I joined Quant University based in Boston, and I'm leading the blockchain technology efforts there. And myself as a U of Chicago alumni, I have a PhD in computer science, and I have taught at DePaul. I haven't taught the blockchain technology courses, but I have taught at DePaul algorithms, data structures courses. And I am looking at these the blockchain technology efforts. I am taking it more both on the applicability side and also on the technical side. How are the inner workings are? What do you need to make sure to make sure there is consensus? How do you achieve the consensus? What are the techniques that are the we are all aware of? So there's proof of work, proof of stake. There are other approaches, so kind of bring those perspectives into people who are interested in various fields. There is, Quant University offers a program called Analytics Certificates, and there's a website, analyticscertificate.com, and actually you can visit analyticscertificates.com/fintech to see more. We are targeting three audiences. One, those professionals in the finance industry and who want to have a general idea of what is blockchain and how it works and how everything functions. Those that are more technical oriented, who want to code and who want to understand how some code, not necessarily code it, but how understand the mechanism behind it. So what we are offering is a workshop. It's what I will be offering is a workshop. It's like a 2-day workshop in several cities in the US, like San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Boston. So looking forward to it.
So I wanted to pick up on something Sarit said, because I think the demand that you do see within the classroom and across campus really is something that has started to take off. And at U Chicago, we don't yet have a FinTech club, but still at our open houses, FinTech is one of the most popular things that people come to ask about, and so that's great to see. And there's also one more audience that I think very often we end up dealing with, that's alumni as well in this space. So I think that's also important to remember, because we have many alumni companies that are in the FinTech space or starting right now, and many of those do have ties back to us. So in that regard, I did want to kind of turn to how each of your institutions is engaging the outside FinTech community, and maybe here I might turn to Lamont first to kind of provide a perspective on how are you engaging with the larger community and staying fresh in that regard.
All right, thanks, EJ. My guess is most of you are here from Chicago. Not necessarily from Chicago, but you work here. Part of why I came to DePaul University was the city. A lot of land-grant universities are unfortunately in the cornfields, great places for research, not necessarily great places for what we call experiential learning. For our students, we believe that the way they learn best is to see it, touch it, and feel it. And that can only happen through partnerships. So part of why I'm here is not just to tell you about DePaul, but also to connect with those of you who think you could potentially benefit from a partnership with DePaul University. Because our students are looking for opportunities. When they're thinking about coding, you can either do that in a lab buried in some deep university basement, or you can do that through a project with a local startup. So one example is a young student of mine, a woman named Sarah Neves. This last year, she interned with Digital Mint, one of the startups that's on a panel later this afternoon. Shortly after that internship, she then interviewed with Berling Bank and did an internship with them. She went from a digital startup to basically a FinTech-focused bank and got to see both sides of that world. Sarah is the type of student that we produce because she's getting that real-world experience. She can do that while she's in class because she lives and works downtown. And then through those partnerships, the students get to know you, you get to know them. Because my thing with universities is we are not the ivory tower. That's not working anymore. That model, in many ways, is being disrupted in our space, just like many of your industries are being disrupted by technology. So our comparative advantage is really the face-to-face relationships and that type of external engagement. So final plug, if you want to talk, I'd love to talk to you, because this organization, Fintank, they're right behind us, the CNA building. DePaul Business School, 1 East Jackson. We are right in the loop. Next Wednesday, we have an event called Students in FinTech at DePaul, 1 East Jackson in the evening. If any of you are interested in meeting students, learning more about what's going on in the universities, it's not just DePaul students, it's students from IIT, Loyola, UIC. Come and meet the students, because that's, I think, really where you're going to see the fresh faces in the next generation in this space.
So yeah, we're also at Kellogg really interested in having this partnership, having this relationship with fintech companies, with banks. and with employers or interested in students who get to understand, to a very deep understanding of the fintech market, and whether it's fintech or blockchain or Bitcoin. What we do is I work a lot with students on independent study, where they take a topic and they dive deep into it and to get a better understanding. We sometimes even, and we contact companies in order to do that, to study companies. We ended up, so I had a student working on a project on Stripe, and we ended up writing a case on Stripe on this, given this specific project. Also Square is another case that we wrote, and it is based on a student who did a project like that. So now I have a group of students who've been working independently with me on blockchain technology, and they ended up starting a startup on blockchain that is related to the real estate market. So we are also trying to, if you have any kind of question that you would like a group of students to study for you, this is something that we are happy to do, and we're happy to build these type of relationships.
Melanie, Drew, you have any comments?
So fintech collaborations is one form of external partnering, and a couple of other forms are the directions that we're focused on. So first of all, we're trying to establish blockchain economics as a field of academic study. And so towards that end, we have collaborations with different blockchain research institutes worldwide in economics, supply chain, and policy. And to support that, we have an open book project at the moment asking for chapters, for contributed chapters, about the economic implications of distributed ledger technology. 4,000 words by March, and you can see blockchainstudies.org for the CFP. The other arm of our external collaborations is with standards setting boards, FASB and the IETF. So if we have a new thing, blockchain distributed ledger technology, and to really have it accepted and adopted at a large scale in the world needs to be uptaken by our standards setting bodies, to whom many people look for guidance. And this means FASB and the IETF. Blockchain is a ledger running on a distributed computing internet protocol stack. So just like we have helpful guidance from the SEC about what constitutes a regulated offering of an ICO security, it's very helpful for our corporate and government planning to know how GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles, are applying to the cryptocurrency industry. Likewise, when we're designing computing systems, where in the OSI protocol stack, at the transport layer, at the application layer, maybe a new layer for value exchange. And so working with standard settings bodies with an academic perspective, trying to help contribute and steward how we think about these kinds of topics more broadly in our society will drive the application of these kinds of areas. So that is another arm of our external collaboration.
Drew?
Our main focus is, so we have three groups of focuses. One of them is students, of course, but we are not, I mean, we don't have a full program, so it's not like all of what you have talking about. More on the other avenues, we are focusing on already working professionals wanting to learn about blockchain technology. And for that, we are traveling to, to several cities in the US. So it's, we are basically offering these workshops, 2-day workshops, or to engage, to educate professionals who are already in the industry and who want to learn about blockchain technologies. And also, there are two different types of audiences. So one of them is more technical oriented, and the other one is less technical oriented about what are the applications of blockchain, and how can we benefit in the company, or how can, I mean, in the technical aspects, well, okay, how can we code this, or how can we, under the hood, how does it function? So these are the main areas we are trying to cover. So we are kind of trying to help those that are not, mainly those that are already working. So this is our main focus, yeah.
Great. So I would just add one perspective on, how universities are working, with industry. Certainly on the fintech side, we're actively recruiting at the University of Chicago for fintechs to, be a part of our startup networking nights, other events that are reaching students directly. There's tons of interest at different career fairs and opportunities to connect in. Oftentimes the folks that you see here on stage are you're into the university, kind of understanding where should you, how can you engage in different ways. And certainly at the university, at least at the University of Chicago, one of the things that we've tried to do is to recognize that there's a lot of great activities and things happening here within the city, such as the event today with Fintank and other partner opportunities. And so, now in the last 2 months, one of the things that we found a lot of power in is actually collating those opportunities for students and creating opportunity kind of listservs. So we now have a monthly email that goes out to about 500 students and alumni that are helping and active in this space because there is a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of barriers. Understanding the opportunities across different academic departments, how to tie in to both the education in the classroom as well as later stage opportunities in incubation and acceleration can be a challenge, but that's a huge opportunity and certainly one that I think all of us, particularly at University of Chicago, are open for. So with that, I'm going to ask one more question and we'll throw it open to the audience. I guess just for the local educators in particular, how can we work together more to support efforts in this space?
All right, I'll jump in again. So EJ mentioned local. So EJ, Sarit, and I are all here in Chicago, U of C, Northwestern, and DePaul. We meet regularly. This is not us just showing up on a stage to kind of put on a good face and then we part our separate ways. Part of what makes Chicago great is the universities. And so I'm a big believer if tech is going to take off in Chicago, if we're going to build on the momentum that we have over the last 5-10 years, the universities have to be part of that because that's the talent pool that we need to drive this, this growth. And I think blockchain and fintech are very much part of that. One more example. This summer, a collaboration across universities. We had a number of students from the University of Chicago. This summer, we did a smart contracts coding boot camp. It was at DePaul in our entrepreneurship center, a 2-day workshop. We were simply the host. So this was a partnership. Jennifer O'Rourke, you heard from this morning, Illinois Blockchain Initiative. She was one of the key organizers. Lexi Prodromos, the moderator for the next panel, Chicago Blockchain Center, she was the other organizer. The three of us put together this event. You know the person who taught it? A gentleman named Andrew Miller, who's a computer science professor at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana. We brought him up, again, from the cornfields, brought him right downtown. I'm sorry, if any of you, man, we got a rule. There you those Chicago people. But it was University of Illinois. And it was like, we put out a PR about this. DePaul University went out through our network, and they were kind of like, wait a second, it's a U of I guy who's actually teaching it? That's kind of weird. But to me, that's the new model. It is that kind of collaboration. Like let's stop fighting over smaller pieces of the pie. Let's play to our strengths. Each of these universities, I mean, great, they are more of the research universities. I can't deny that. But again, we have that experiential component. Let's bring together the deep philosophical abstracts of these discussions with the hands-on tools to actually code it. That, I think, is where you really get the win-win situation.
Totally agreed. And what's interesting is that when a group of my students were thinking about building a fintech lab, at Kellogg, one of the things that they did is that they approached students at Stanford and asked them, what do you do in the club? How did you build it? What happened there? And the students there were talking about how Stanford and Berkeley actually has a collaboration across the students and the different clubs. So it's not just, I think that the students understand that collaboration is important, and we can see that they are doing it. And this is something that, yeah, we kind of like, the three of us have been talking a lot about doing. And I think that, yeah, the pool of talent that the three of us actually produce can be immense, very useful for the fintech community in Chicago.
And the reality is that every successful startup that comes out one of our universities is going to have a lot of fingerprints across in this space. So all right, let's open it up to the audience. Any questions? There's one at the back.
A lot of the fintech problems can't be done by kids that are in a dorm room drinking Red Bull like you can in B2C things. Have you had any success getting the private sector to open up about the problems that they have so students can work on them?
So, go ahead.
I think that, in fact, this is a perfect venue. Academia is a perfect venue for this because you can bring together a private industry consortium to talk about issues in a broad brush way that they wouldn't feel comfortable with ordinarily. And so academia, as a steward for an industry, a working group about the obvious issues in healthcare and blockchain healthcare, for example, is a perfect way to host a conference and to steward the relationships amongst industry partners.
So I totally agree with you that this is a challenge. A former student of mine works at Cabbage, and he reached out to me about a year ago saying, well, here's a problem that we have. Let's see how you guys can help us. We've been struggling with getting permission, to get access to data. So it's not that we were able to actually partner and do something, not yet. We're still in the process of doing that, which tells you that it's been too long it's taking us too long to do that. But I think that the understanding, so having our students start working in this type of organizations is the first step for these type of organizations to actually open themselves to understanding that there is value in working with the academia.
Jeff, I think that's a great question. And one way I try and teach my graduate level classes is the case method. Probably all of you are familiar with like MBA's Harvard cases. I think one of the problems with the case method is typically it's historical, but it's always a problem. There's some problem and the answer is not obvious. To me, the way forward in this is to create real world cases where people real time are struggling with this. Get the students involved. They're not going to solve it, but they're going to help you think about it, and they might look at it differently than you look at it, and together something might come out of that. So partnerships are a way to kind of step into that mess.
Yeah, Jeff, and I would just add that, so I think we have a similar perspective. I think we're at a point that we will soon be announcing kind of larger corporate partnerships for engagement. A lot of this has happened at the individual kind of project level within classes and through research that we do. So both at Polsky, one reason why we are specifically doing FinTech, RegTech, SureTech type of activities and support is that we recognize that it's a longer game that the entrepreneurs are playing. It's a harder game. We need to provide some extra support to, give startups the opportunity to really be successful here. We have a lot of winning and great programs, the New Venture Challenge, all those sorts of things. And all of the FinTech support comes on top of that. But that's to counteract some of the things that you're, pointing to there. And definitely looking forward, I think, deeper industry connections, partially because industry is changing really rapidly, and we see a lot of innovation within traditional kind of finance companies. And so we see a lot of those folks coming to us, coming to the students to hire, to look for ideas, and I think that's only going to get, FinTech's going to get a little bit blurrier moving forward as we certainly mature. Yep, one more. Unfortunately, this will be our last question.
Thank you. Melanie, you mentioned your school has a class on reading. Can you go to maybe classes?
This semester, we have a crypto seminar. Is that what you're interested in? Meets every Monday, 1 to 2. I'm sorry, what? Oh, I'm sorry, the Udemy. Yes, if you at blockchainstudies.org, there's a link for the Udemy course, and it's a free blockchain theory course that over 4,500 students have taken. Thank you. Yeah, anything that increases technical skill sets.
That's great. All right, big round of applause for our panel.